21st Century Entrepreneurship with Martin Piskarik.
As entrepreneurs, we're always just grinding. It's that constant grind, grind, grind. You ever wondered what you would do with more time? My name is Robert Howard. I started my career professionally in auto sales, and that's what I did for the past 20 years. Of course, it wasn't always easy. The thing that kept me bogged down were the hours. I was working from what they call can to can't. And that turned into, 70, 80-hour work weeks on a regular basis. It caused me to miss a lot of time with family, but I did always make sure that I was going to show up, for my kids. But that's all I was doing, really just showing up. It's like hi and bye, if the event started, the event's over, and then I'm right back to work. And I did that for 20 years. I did allow somebody to build their entire company, on my back. And then after a while, I said, man, enough is enough. Let's just see what I could do on my own. So it's just me, taking that leap. I took a leap of faith to go out on my own and start my own business. But during this time, I spent probably about 2 years trying to develop this skill of being able to wholesale real estate. I've always wanted to be in real estate from a very young age. It came from watching my dad. He was good with his hands. He was a carpenter. He built decks. We dig footings, all that stuff together. So I always like to see one thing start at one place and end up at another. That was pretty intriguing to me. One day, I went down a rabbit hole. I got on the internet. I knew at the time, I hadn't done what I should have done with my money. So I had to research how to get in real estate with no money. And that led me into a lot of education about wholesaling because that's a very good entry level into real estate. Now, for those of you that don't know what wholesaling is, what that essentially is you find someone that wants to sell their house. A lot of times it's distressed. You find another person that wants to buy that house. For the sake of round numbers, we'll say the person A wanted to sell for 40,000, B wanted to buy for 50,000. That $10,000 gap in between, that's your profit. So that's your take from that deal. And it doesn't require you to pay the $40,000 for the house to buy it and then try to sell it. In essence, all you're doing, in a sense, is brokering to make it in terms where you can probably understand it. Of course, there's a lot of legalities and stuff that goes on with that and getting an assignment of contract, but in essence, that's basically what wholesaling is. Some people have found to even call it paper profits. But like I said, that's a good start to get into real estate, and that's what started me into my journey. But I didn't just start there. It took me, before I got my first deal, I spent probably close to $40,000, $50,000 on education, so much to the point where I literally just forgot and I stopped counting. But I read all the articles, I looked at all the YouTube videos, I even bought leads before I even knew what I was doing. And it wasn't until I ran into this young lady that was already wholesaling real estate, and we clashed in what was supposed to be my first deal. Because she had it under contract, I had it under contract, and I'm like, my contract should win. To make a long story short, she said, "Look, that's not how you do business." And I end up telling her I was gonna sue the homeowner for not performing on the contract and all this stuff. And she said, "Look, if you want to do this, I'll show you how." And she showed me the right way. So it wasn't that, that 40, $50,000 I sent. It was running into the right person that was willing to just invest a little bit in me. And we spent time almost every day, like on the phone. And even with working 70 to 80 hours a week, I knew that I didn't want that life so bad that I was willing to sacrifice, my sleep and all my free time, anything that I had. Like I would get up at, from like 5 to 7, and I would work on, real estate leads, give me a game plan to call. On my lunch break, I'd go in my car, call those people, and I would set it up where me and my daughter, who's 17 now, we started the business together. But we would go on a Sunday, which was the only day I had, and it wasn't uncommon at all for us to have 10 to 13 appointments on a Sunday. So at that point, now I'm working 7 hours a week. That quickly translated into me getting my first deal. Even after spending all that money, I was grateful because my first deal brought me about $25,000. So from there, I was hooked. And the typical results you can expect on a deal like that should be around like the 10K range normally. But I was working those 7 days a week relentlessly because I had that vision of what I wanted at the end. That definitely allowed me to see light at the end of the tunnel at a time where after 9 months straight, not getting a single deal and doing all this work, almost to the point where I was just discouraged and was going to just say, you know what? I wasn't going to call it quits on just finding something else, but I was like, maybe this is not it. Now I'll try to find another side hustle. But that side hustle turned into my main hustle after a couple of years because I went from doing one deal a month to 3 deals a month, then to 5 deals a month. And by the time I got to 8 to 10 a month, I realized I could replace my income from my 8 to 5. And I'm like, well, I can do this. And after 20 years and a career that was solid and paid me well into the six-figure range for quite a long time, I took that leap into the unknown and said, if I can build it for somebody else, I definitely can build it for myself. And it's almost like I owed it to me. I owed it to me to at least try. After walking off into basically what would be the unknown, um, we started to have pretty consistent success. At that point, when I was no longer trying to work, 2 jobs, things started to get a lot easier. I was able to get laser focused on our business, fine tune our processes, and transition, into that next level. It wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be, but it definitely wasn't difficult at all. Because now I had more time that I spend with my family, so everybody is happy. Now I'm not missing games. I'm at every football game, every practice, every volleyball, every track, like you name it. Uh, they can count on dad to show up. And being an entrepreneur and working for myself like that allowed for that. And I always ask people when they're trying to get on their journey is like, what would you do with more time? Because that's one of the things that we can't make enough of. We can't recreate that. You have these same 24, and everybody has to fit what they have to fit in there. And in your 24, you decide what's important to you. At some point, yes, we have to be a provider, and money has its place because you definitely have to have the necessities. People have things they want, and you have to be able to provide. But that time, for me, is the new currency, and that's what I was able to tap into by stepping away and forming something on my own. Now, of course, you're going to hear, and even you'll hear me tell you that there's no money required to get into this. But to be good, the biggest lie told to man would be that you don't have to have an investment in something. when they're telling you that, it's just get rich quick, like and all this stuff. And, the gurus and all this stuff, they'll tell you, hey, if you do this, you buy them a course, whatever the case may be, there's an investment. The investment is, of course, your time. Like, I'm not going to tell you you're going to hop on here, you're going to get a deal, in 30 days flat if you aren't doing the work. At the end of the day, you have to do the work. For instance, I tell a lot of our students that you have to spend at least 10 hours a week on this. And you can chop it up, cut it up however you like to. And that's either, 2 hours, 5 hours a day, 5 hours on Saturday and Sunday, whatever it is, it's going to take at least that in order for you to be successful. It just won't be something that just falls in your lap. But we do give you the roadmap and help you get there. Now there are a lot of free tools you can use. Like I don't know if I mentioned earlier, you can go on Zillow, you find you some leads, you find um, people who hadn't sold their home in 180 days or so. I would imagine they'd be very motivated. I found success there. I will suggest investing in a tool that you can actually do a little bit of research on, like PropStream is a pretty important tool. We rely on that some as well, and that's only $100 a month. I think it's right at $99 a month for the simplest plan. But it's things like that. You have courthouse lists you can get. You can go to your county's um, city hall meetings and all that stuff. You can get an abatement list, all that stuff. Skip tracing people for just programs out there. You just pay 10 cents for everybody that you need to skip trace and get their contact info. I'm not trying to gatekeep here. Like I tell you, I want everybody to be able to get, this same feeling and get some of this success. But you're going to have to invest. Besides that little bit of money I just threw out there on programs like that, get into networking, and more than anything, that's probably the best thing I do is telling people what I do. So nothing else, don't be afraid to open your mouth. But again, the opportunities are there. The opportunities are endless. You just have to take action. Once I mastered that, I realized from talking to colleagues and friends and everybody that we all basically had the same problem. And it's how do I make more time? Now, I'm not telling you that real estate is the end all be all, but what I can tell you is if you want more time without a lot of whole back breaking, sweating, and all of that, then wholesaling is the way. I believe in it so much that I've even started to, offer to help people out. And we've basically just started a coaching, which all listeners here, anybody that wants to be a part of it, I'll send you a few things for free to kind of help you get started just the way I did, because I would love everybody to be able to experience this freedom. One of the things, if you go to the website, it's www.epicwholesaling.com. If you go there, just shoot me a note. In the notes, just type jump. When I get your message, I immediately send you the script that I use for cold calling agents. Because again, it's a ton of free ways that you can get leads and find sellers and buyers. I'll send you that script. Along with that, I'll also send you an intro to wholesaling, so you know exactly what it is, what it does. But man, I would love everybody again to be able to taste that, because now I can't really see myself doing anything else.
21st Century Entrepreneurship with Martin Piskarik.
Imagine a space where triumphs, trials, and tales of entrepreneurship come alive. Welcome to the 21st Century Entrepreneurship Podcast, a gold awarded journey hosted by Martin Piskarik, connecting with listeners in 95 countries and ranking in the top 0.5% of all podcasts. Join our exclusive community, elevate your perspective, and embark on the path to success.